Have you ever experienced someone who just from the get-go overwhelmed you with compliments, love, commitment, contact, gifts, validation? If so, you might have experienced love bombing. In this video, we'll discover what love bombing is and what to do if you find yourself in a situation where you think someone is love bombing you. First and foremost, love bombing is a manipulation tactic where someone overwhelms the other person with unearned love and affection. And what I mean by unearned is, they don't really know you yet. You haven't done anything to deserve this amount of commitment and love and affection from them. Let me give you an example. You meet someone, you go on a first date. After the first date, they're already sure that you're the one. And they're sending you gifts, they're texting you constantly, they're validating you from morning till evening. They say, I love you after 3 dates. They want to move in together after 2 weeks. This is love bombing. They don't know you well enough to know that you're the one. They don't know you well enough to give you compliments because you've only gone on a couple of dates. They don't truly know who you are yet. So it does feel unearned. And that's why in these scenarios, it's very flattering, right? And it can feel like a high for someone to be this into you, especially if you're also into them. But the truth is, it's not coming from a valid place, because how can they know you? They don't know you yet. So here are some characteristics of love bombing. First, we have the excessive affection, which we just went over. So they are completely all over you all the time. It feels amazing, but it almost feels too good to be true, because it is. Doesn't mean that you don't deserve a lot of love and affection, but you deserve it when someone has really truly gotten to know you. You deserve it after a couple of months when you've really opened your heart to someone and let them see who you are and you've had some deep conversations. It's not real if it's happening too soon like this. There's the rapid pace. Someone who does have bad intentions, and people who love bomb, whether they do it consciously or unconsciously, they are trying to manipulate you to attach quickly for one reason or another. And that's why they often move at this really, really rapid pace. People who do it often have a fear of abandonment, or they have malintentions, so they want you to be hooked before they actually show who they truly are and completely devalue you down the line. So that's why it's important for them that you've already moved in together, that you've already decided to be exclusive when they start showing who they truly are, or when their wounds start showing up, or maybe they're incredibly jealous, or it can be a lot of things that can be hidden underneath this love bombing tactic. Then we've got the flattery overload. Okay, so that means compliments on everything. You're the best at everything. You're the best kisser. You're the most beautiful. You're the funniest. And yes, when we're in love and we're infatuated, that's how we feel about the person we're dating. But again, it's about the pace and about the excessive amount of this. It is like you're being bombarded with compliments. Okay, you're being bombarded. There are like millions of hearts in the text messages. There's just, there's no end to how amazing you are and how much they want to express that to you. And then there's the attention and control. In the beginning stages, you won't see it as control. It'll just look like an extreme amount of infatuation with you and an extreme amount of prioritizing you above all else and giving their full attention to you. Eventually, love bombing will shift into manipulation. Once the person who's love bombing you feels like that you've gotten hooked, that you're now addicted to them, because this is how trauma bonds work. I have made a video about trauma bonding. It's here if you want to watch that one. Once you're hooked, then the devaluation will start. And then sometimes there can be some emotionally abusive behaviors, which really, really isn't good. And by that point, you're already so deep and you're probably living with them, or you're at least in some way, shape or form, very attached to this person already. And also it feels like such a come down from this high that you've been on, because being love bombed is one of the most amazing feelings. Yet, it's amazing, but there is some kind of undercurrent of unease. So if you're experiencing this, you're probably also experiencing that underlying anxiety. Like, is this too good to be true? Like, why is this happening? It's so extreme. It's like a love story from the movies, but you're not 100% believing it. And then you're probably telling yourself, oh, but it's just because I'm not, like, I should just let it in. I should just accept it. It's because I never accept myself to receive this kind of love. You should receive this kind of love, but not this soon and not to this extreme extent before you know somebody truly and deeply. So here's why love bombing can be dangerous. It's because you get extremely dependent and you end up getting trauma bonded with a person like this, because eventually when they do devaluate the relationship in you, then you're going to long for the days when it was good. You're going to be looking back to those first few months or that first month where everything was amazing, where they were so into you, and you're like, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? And then a person like this will from then on sort of switch from hot and cold, like explained in the trauma bonded video I just linked to before. They'll go hot and cold. So sometimes you'll see a little bit of that love bombing come back, but most of the time they will have devalued you and they're not going to treat you as this precious, amazing person that you are, like they did at the beginning of the relationship. So that can really take a toll on your self-esteem. And it can be very disorienting for you and confusing for you, because this person who was so amazing in the beginning, they've completely shifted, and it feels like you were just being yourself the whole time. So you don't really know what you did wrong. And the truth is, you didn't do anything wrong. It's not your problem. It's them. Another thing is that it blurs the lines when it comes to your boundaries. Because someone is love bombing you, they can get you to do, I don't want to say anything, but they can get you to do more than if they weren't doing it. Because when we feel that our cup is so full of love and appreciation, we're much more likely to agree to whatever they want us to do and to kind of push our own boundaries. And that's what happens in unhealthy relationships over time, is that the boundaries just get pushed just like 0.0001% every day, and suddenly you're finding yourself in a place where your boundaries have been pushed so much that you don't even recognize yourself. Like, am I putting up with these behaviors? I don't even understand how I got here, but that's how you got there, just a little bit at a time. With love bombing often comes eventual isolation as well, because this person wants you all to themselves, and they want that because eventually they're going to start showing their true colors, probably, and they don't want your friends and family to intervene, you know, and they might really be obsessed with you. It's a very obsessive kind of love, and it's that the infatuation is just, I'm not saying the person isn't infatuated with you, but people like that are usually in love with a fantasy. So someone who love bombs you, since they don't know you, they're in love with a fantasy version of who you are. And they're crazy in love with that person in the beginning until they realize that it was a fantasy version, because no one can ever live up to a fantasy. And then comes the devaluation. So it's like it's in their own psyche that all of this is happening. It really has very little to do with you. Not saying you're not amazing. Again, you deserve all this love and appreciation in your life. But just in these particular cases, it's really about their own roller coaster. And the problem is that you're along for the ride on this emotional roller coaster. And it's very draining. And it can actually end up completely destroying your life, because you're using all of your time and energy now managing this trauma bond that you find yourself in because you were lured in by the love bombing. How do you recognize love bombing? First and foremost, pay attention to the pace. Is the amount of affection and love that you're getting from this person appropriate given the time frame that you've known each other? Just try. I know it feels so good, and I know you're feeling like high right now if you're going through it right now, but just try to be objective. Is it appropriate that they're this into you and that they're giving you this much this soon? Is the person too perfect, or is everything too good to be true? Does it feel that way? Because if it does, then there's usually something there. There are amazing people out there, but nobody's perfect. Right? So someone who love bombs, they'll also often portray themselves as being your perfect partner. They'll be able to detect what you sort of need in the moment and what's your biggest weakness, and they'll prey on that. So if your biggest weakness is that you need a lot of validation, for example, then they will prey on that and they'll give you a lot of validation. If your biggest weakness is that you have an abandonment wound, then they'll constantly tell you, I'll never leave you, I'll never leave you, I'll never leave you, I'll never leave you. But yeah, so you can detect it by seeing if it's appropriate what's happening. Is it quote unquote normal what's going on in your relationship, or are things moving too fast, and is it too overwhelming and too intense? You should also look out for red flags. I've made a video about red flags to look out for, so you can watch it by clicking up here. I definitely recommend you do, because there are a whole list of red flags to look out for, and just see if this person is checking any of these boxes. Then you need to be a little bit extra cautious. If you find yourself in a love bombing situation, then it's probably best for you if you can set a boundary and end the relationship. There are cases where someone love bombs without knowing that they're doing it, simply because they have abandonment wounds, or they're super afraid of losing you, and they're trying their best to they are really infatuated with what's going on here. But still, if that's the case and they have great intentions, still set some boundaries. Set boundaries in terms of the pace, saying, I'm not going to move in together after a month. I'm going to take my time. I don't want to say I love you yet until I've known someone for 3 months. I don't want to introduce you to my family before I've known you for this and this amount of time. It's got nothing to do with you. It's just something for me, but I really like you and I want to see where this is going. And then trust your gut. Trust that feeling that something is off. If you really feel that, and I'm sure you will if you're with a person like this, trust it. Trust it. Talk to your friends. Please don't isolate yourself because you don't want their opinion. Trust your friends. If they think something is off here, something probably is. Trust your family members, people who have your best interest in heart and who really know you. To sum up, not all intense affection early on is manipulation, but it is a tactic that's very commonly used by people who don't have your best interest in heart, and people who are, for example, narcissists, or have some kind of dysfunction or bad intentions. So you want to be careful here. I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.